Imagine a world where monsters from the catacombs hunt humans like lambs for slaughter. In this world, strength is the only law, and talent is the only currency that matters. I was the bottom of the barrel, a talentless failure who could not even feel the aura. But then, I awakened a cheat that changes the rules, the strongest training system. No more grueling years of meditation, just one click to add points and instantly level up. While others sweat for a single breath of energy, I just watch my proficiency bars skyrocket. I was trapped in a martial arts hall with a ticking clock and a looming deadline. The instructors gave me 3 days to pass the assessment or be kicked out forever. The geniuses mocked my effort, calling me a good-for-nothing who was just wasting space. But while they were talking, I was secretly pumping points into my spirit induction technique. By the time the test arrived, I was not just a warrior, I was a 3-star monster. I stepped up to the testing machine with a smile while the crowd waited for my failure. Then the machine blinded everyone, recording a speed of cultivation that defied all logic. I did not just pass the test, I forced the master of the hall to take me as his disciple. Now, I am claiming every high-level skill in the building because why settle for one? This is the story of how I went from 0 to invincible. Let's get into the recap. I sat in the hall listening to the old man explain the tragedy that befell our world 500 years ago. Monsters emerged from mysterious caves called catacombs, slaughtering humans regardless of our advanced technology or thermal weapons. We were nearly wiped out until Aura appeared, giving birth to warriors who could finally fight back against the tide. 300 years ago, a legend named Ji Khan sealed the main crypt, though he sacrificed his life to do it. Now, 12 martial saints protect us, each guarding a cave to ensure our current lives remain stable and peaceful. But the old man's warning was clear. Strength is the only thing that keeps us from becoming lambs to be slaughtered. I listened intently, but my situation was complicated. I am not actually originally from this world. A few days ago, I woke up in the body of an Heng here in Qingfeng City's Fengwu Martial Arts Hall. The original owner of this body died trying too hard to become a warrior despite having absolutely no talent. In this world, talent is everything. Only a small fraction of people can actually sense and harness aura. The old man looked at me with pity, knowing I had the will but lacked the necessary natural gift. Then he dropped the bombshell. We have an assessment in 3 days to see who actually becomes a warrior. The room erupted in panic. Most of my classmates hadn't felt a single spark of aura in 3 months. Only a few arrogant students remained calm, mocking those of us who were struggling to keep up. They bragged about their progress, reminding us that without talent, we are nothing more than failures. Even the hall master, a powerful second-rank 8-star warrior, could not help someone without aptitude. My friend Lu Long tried to comfort me, but we both knew the harsh truth about my limitations. I retreated to my room, staring out the window and wondering if I was destined to be a good-for-nothing. I tried the spirit induction techniques again, but my body remained silent. No aura, no power, nothing. With the assessment looming, I felt a wave of melancholy. I was tired of fighting this uphill battle. I decided right then and there that I was done working hard the traditional way. It was time to just hang up. I woke up in this strange new world with a gift called the strongest training system. The system is simple but powerful. It generates training points over time and rewards me for defeating monsters. These points allow me to instantly upgrade my skills and proficiency, bypassing years of grueling hard work. At first, I tried to become a warrior the traditional way, relying on my own strength and willpower. But the reality was cruel. I had no natural talent for feeling the aura, and I felt defeated. Then I changed my perspective. Why not view this system as my own innate advantage or family wealth? With that realization, I stopped doubting myself and spent 10 points on my spirit induction technique. Immediately, my body felt a subtle shift. I had reached the beginner level of spirit induction. In this world, skills progress from beginner to great perfection. Most people spend years climbing this ladder. To reach small accomplishment, one must circulate aura for a week. Great accomplishment requires 9 full cycles. Even the curator of the Fengwu Martial Arts School only reached small perfection, which is quite impressive. I closed my eyes and focused. For the first time, I could see tiny clusters of aura in the air. I tried to pull the energy into my body, but it vanished instantly. I was exhausted and frustrated. Mental effort is draining, and my spirit was flagging. I realized I couldn't do this the slow way. I decided to rely on the system again, spending more points to reach the small accomplishment level. The difference was immediate. The aura around me felt larger, more numerous, and much easier to capture. I successfully absorbed several clusters of energy and began circulating them to temper my blood and muscles. I could feel my physical energy improving, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more power, and I wanted it now. I spent hours pouring training points into my induction technique until I finally reached great accomplishment. I focused my mind and completed the required 9 cycles of aura circulation. My body felt crystal clear. I felt a bottleneck shatter within me. I clenched my fist and felt my strength double in an instant. The system chimed in my mind, confirming my progress. I have finally become a 1-star warrior. I never imagined that becoming a warrior could be this simple. For most people, it is a lifelong struggle. Take Wu Tian, for example. His family spent a fortune on blood energy pills, yet he is still an ordinary person. Those pills cost 2,000 yuan, more than some families make in a month, but money cannot buy talent. But I have an advantage. By controlling 9 groups of spiritual energy, I broke through in just a few hours. I checked my system panel. I am now a 1-star warrior, and my training point generation has doubled. This changes everything. The road to little perfection in spirit induction just became much shorter and far faster. The spirit induction technique is terrifying because it can run for 36 weeks. Full mastery would be incredible. For now, I focused on refining my blood and ki. I needed my physical body to adapt to this power. Being an orphan with almost no money is difficult. After paying school fees, I was practically on the verge of bankruptcy. I noticed my hunger grew as I grew stronger. It seems being a warrior requires much more energy to maintain. The next morning at the martial arts hall, Wu Tian was the center of attention, surrounded by many admirers. He was bragging about his progress, claiming he was pursuing great mastery of the spirit induction art. His arrogance did not go unnoticed. Elder Changle, a powerful master, stepped in to humble him with a stern warning. Changle warned him that pride without substance is just conceit. Then, he looked for me, but I was absent. Even Lu Long noticed I was gone. He was worried, but I had a much more important place to be. I stayed home and trained like a madman. I did not need basic lessons when I had my system. The hard work paid off. I felt a surge of energy and officially promoted to a 2-star warrior. Now, my points generate at 3 per hour. I accumulated 100 points and knew exactly where to spend them. I spent them all instantly to reach small perfection in spirit induction. The change was immediate and overwhelming. My practice efficiency jumped 15 times. I can now absorb aura and run the technique for 36 full weeks. This is just the beginning. If I can hit 3 or 4 stars soon, my growth will become truly unstoppable. Not long ago, I was just an ordinary person. Now, thanks to my system plugin, my cultivation speed is like a rocket. I didn't let the sudden power go to my head. Instead, I cleared my mind and focused on one thing: practicing. I spent 2 days straight absorbing spiritual energy from the air, pushing my body to the absolute limit to get stronger. Moving from a 2-star to a 3-star warrior was far more difficult than the first step, but I finally did it. With my saved training points, I pushed my spirit induction technique to great perfection, reaching the absolute peak of the skill. The results were incredible. I can now run 81 cycles of Reiki, which is double what I could do before. I was so lost in the thrill of my progress that I completely forgot today was the day of the assessment. I rushed to the Phoenix Dance Martial Arts Hall, arriving breathless just as the other disciples were gathering for the test. The stakes are high. Passing means I can continue studying as a martial artist, but failing means I will be dismissed. My friend Lu Long looked relieved to see me. He thought I had skipped the test because I feared failing. Instructor Changle explained the rules. We had to use a testing machine to measure the cycles of our spiritual power. I watched as my peers stepped up. Most of them failed miserably, unable to even register a single cycle on the machine. Only one student had passed so far, leaving the rest of us feeling anxious and envious of his success. As the line moved forward, it was finally my turn. Everyone looked at me, wondering what I could actually achieve. I watched as the crowd buzzed with excitement. All eyes were on Wu Tian, the golden boy of our group. He had the talent, the background, and the favor of the instructors. Everyone expected him to breeze through the assessment. Senior brother Lin and Changle treated him with an openness they didn't show anyone else. It was all about status. While the other disciples whispered in jealousy, I just stood there, observing the scene with a calm and steady mind. My friend Lu Long was fuming, convinced that Wu Tian's success was just a result of his wealthy family background. I leaned in and whispered the truth to him. I told him that I had already reached the 3rd star. Lu Long looked at me like I was insane. He didn't believe a word of it, and I didn't blame him. Wu Tian stepped up to the machine. He entered a state of focus that impressed even the senior brothers immediately. The minutes ticked by as he struggled to push the counter. To the crowd, this was a display of power. But from my perspective, it was agonizingly slow. If it were me, I would have finished the cycle in seconds. Eventually, the machine hit 1 week. It was Wu Tian's limit, and the instructors were thoroughly impressed by his result. Out of 30 disciples, only 5 passed. The atmosphere grew tense as more people failed the rigorous inspection process. Then it was Lu Long's turn. He managed to pass, though he didn't quite hit the full mark of 1 week. He joined the ranks of the successful, leaving me as the final focus of the crowd's mocking attention. As I walked up, the whispers started. They remembered me as the failure who could not even capture aura. Wu Tian looked at me with amusement, expecting me to crumble under the pressure. I just smiled back at him. I placed my hand on the machine and concentrated. In an instant, a blinding light erupted, shielding everything from view. The entire area went silent. The instructors were speechless, their mouths hanging open in sheer and absolute disbelief. Changel gasped, realizing the machine had reacted to an overwhelming amount of aura. My true strength was finally revealed. I placed my hand on the verification machine to show my progress. In less than 3 minutes, I completed 1 cycle. The crowd erupted in disbelief. They could not imagine a disciple with only 3 months of training moving this fast. Some whispered that there must be an inside story. They thought the machine was glitching or that I was cheating. Changel and senior brother Lin were completely dazed. A single cycle usually takes several minutes, not a fraction of that. Overwhelmed by the impossibility of it all, Changel rushed away to find his elder brother, Wang Ping, for answers. Wang Ping is a 5-star martial artist and one of the most powerful people in our academy. He arrived quickly. He looked at the machine and saw the count had already reached 4. The crowd held their breath in anticipation. To everyone's surprise, Wang Ping confirmed the machine was working. He told them that true talent dictates the operation's speed. The shock grew as the counter hit 9 cycles in under half an hour. I had reached great success in the technique. While others were amazed, I could feel Wu Tian's gaze. He was consumed by jealousy as I stole his limelight. I did not stop there. I kept pushing my spirit and the number climbed steadily past 36 cycles. The crowd was terrified to even breathe. They realized I was aiming for 81 cycles, the legendary grade completion. Wang Ping recognized the rarity of my talent. He immediately left to bring the Hall Master to witness this event. Soon, a powerful presence approached. The Hall Master and several high-ranking elders were arriving at the training ground. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The Academy's elite had come to see the monster who had rewritten the rules of talent. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the Fengwu martial arts gym on me as the machine ticked upward. Gao Chengyi and the seniors were in disbelief. 72 cycles in 3 minutes was unheard of for someone like me. While they whispered about the machine being broken, I stayed in a state of complete selflessness, pushing my limits further. Finally, I hit the 81st week. A wave of indescribable comfort washed over my entire body as I broke through. My system prompt confirmed the achievement. I had officially been promoted to a 4-star warrior thanks to my training. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Changel, who had looked down on me before, was now suddenly fawning and overly friendly. Master Gao announced it to the room. I had reached great perfection in spirit induction and become a 4-star warrior. I could see the shock on the other disciples' faces. Some were amazed, while others, like Wu Tian, looked defeated. I tried to play it cool, claiming it was just a coincidence, but Master Gao saw right through my modesty. He offered me a spot as his direct disciple. I didn't hesitate for a second and knelt to accept the honor. As I followed him inside, I learned about the world of techniques, ranging from grade 1 to the powerful grade 9. I heard about the burning sun pill technique, a high-level second-rank skill, and I desperately wanted to learn it. I wondered if practicing higher-level skills would accelerate my training points, but my senior brother gave me a reality check. I wasn't a martial master yet. Without internal force, trying that technique could cause mental obstacles or ruin my martial arts. Even though I couldn't have the burning sun technique yet, Master Gao still handed me 3 exercises and a body technique. I stood before the table, staring at the manuals. The rising dragon palm, bloodthirsty knife, and slaying heaven sword were legendary first-grade skills. But one caught my eye more than the others. The Phoenix Dance 9 Heavens, a high-level second-grade technique of unmatched speed and stealth. My senior brother, Wang Ping, told me I could choose any one of them. But why settle for one when I can have everything? My senior brothers tried to warn me. Mastering just one skill to the great perfection takes years of grueling and focused effort. Even Master Gao Chengyi cautioned me. He said choosing the wrong path now could hinder my entire future as a martial artist. I did not hesitate. I looked them in the eye and told them clearly that I wanted to learn all 4 of them. They were completely stunned. To them, trying to master 4 separate paths at once was a recipe for failure and wasted time. Wang Ping explained that one perfected skill is far more lethal in battle than 4 mediocre ones. I just kept my secret. They did not know about my system. With its blessing, the normal rules of cultivation and time simply did not apply to me. To buy some time, I asked my senior brothers to demonstrate the skills. I wanted to see their power in action first. As I watched them execute the moves in the courtyard, I felt a surge of excitement. I knew exactly what I had to do. I told Master I still could not decide and asked to practice all of them for a while before making a final choice. Master Gao eventually gave in. He believed in my talent and hoped I would find the right path soon enough. Once alone, I opened my system panel. I was a 4-star warrior generating 5 training points every single hour. The price of power was steep. It cost 20 points for the first grade skills and 50 for the Phoenix Dance 9 Heavens. If the cost scales like my previous techniques, I will need a mountain of points to reach the great perfection stage. Hunting monsters will not be enough. My only real option is to break through to a higher martial realm as quickly as possible. I stepped out of the inner courtyard, feeling the weight of my ambition. I was now a direct disciple of Master Gao. Suddenly, a voice called my name. I turned around to see Lu Long running toward me with an excited expression on his face. Despite my new status, Lu Long remained the same simple and kind friend I had always known. He was not jealous at all. Behind him, the other disciples, including Wu Tian, watched me with curious eyes. My journey in the gym was only just beginning. I ran into my friend Lu Long, who was absolutely floored to find out I had already reached the 4-star warrior realm. He jokingly called me a bad friend for keeping my progress a secret, worried I would not even pass the tests. As we walked, the outer courtyard disciples began to stare, wondering why I was emerging from the restricted inner courtyard. Word spread quickly that I had become the personal disciple of the pavilion owner, sparking a wave of shock and jealousy. Some higher-ranked warriors looked down on me, thinking a 4-star rank was insignificant compared to their own advanced progress. But I did not let their judgment bother me. Being a direct disciple changed everything about my standing in the hall. Lu Long was eager to learn how I mastered the spirit guiding technique so quickly and asked me for my guidance. Then Wu Tian approached me. He used to be incredibly arrogant, but now he was acting completely different, almost flattering. He offered me a bottle containing 3 blood chi pills, a treasure worth 60,000 just to get some pointers. It was a steep price, but as a direct disciple, it was my duty to help my juniors improve their skills. Wu Tian left satisfied, and Lu Long benefited from the lesson too, while I headed home to focus on my growth. I knew that raising my realm quickly was the only way to obtain more training points and secure my future. The blood chi pills were exactly what I needed, especially since I lacked the funds to buy such expensive elixirs. Back in my room, I sat cross-legged and opened the bottle, filling the air with a potent, energetic fragrance. I stared at the red pill, skeptical of its legendary effects before finally swallowing it in one quick gulp. Almost immediately, a wave of heat surged through my body, centering right in my dantian in the lower abdomen. I quickly activated my spirit induction technique, guiding the energy through my body in a series of intense, rhythmic cycles. After 81 full cycles, my body felt swollen with power, yet I realized the medicinal energy was not fully absorbed. I pushed further, focusing every ounce of my will on absorbing the remaining power as I approached a critical bottleneck. Finally, the breakthrough happened. My body smoothed over, and I felt a rush of new chi and blood filling me. I can't believe it. 1 blood energy pill was all it took for me to break through to a 5-star warrior. I used to struggle for every bit of progress, but the effect of this pill is absolutely exaggerated. I remembered Wu Tian taking one when he first started. He is incredibly rich, so I can't really complain. My system is automatically generating 6 training points every hour. It got me thinking about exploring the dangerous catacombs. The catacombs are mysterious places filled with opportunities, but they are divided into ranks from C to S. C-level burrows are manageable for me, but B-level ones require 7th rank warriors just to keep people safe. A-level crypts are guarded by 8th rank elites, and the 12 S-level caves are held by 9th rank martial saints. These burrows keep appearing, and I suspect one might even show up here in Qingfeng City eventually. To survive, I need to learn body techniques and saber skills first. I need money to reach the martial artist realm. The next morning, I woke up feeling a massive surge of power. 3 more pills had been fully absorbed. I checked my panel and gasped. I had jumped all the way to a 7-star warrior with 105 training points. At this rate, a few more pills could push me to 8 stars. Most people would call that impossible. I headed to the martial arts hall, where the news of my progress had already started to spread. Wang Ping greeted me warmly, but his smile vanished when he felt my aura. He was completely shocked. I had jumped 4 realms in a single night. He looked at me as if I were some kind of monster. Then Wu Tian rushed over, beaming with pride. He told me he could now run 5 weeks thanks to my guidance. The other disciples were stunned. Wu Tian had gone from barely finishing 1 week to this in just a few days. Wang Ping stayed quiet, but I could tell the sudden gap in our talent was putting a lot of pressure on him. As I prepared to train, 3 unfamiliar disciples approached me. They looked nervous but determined. They had heard about Wu Tian's progress and wanted my help. Then, they did something that made my heart race. They offered me 3 full bottles of blood energy pills. I almost lost my cool, but I kept my expression calm. I told them it was my duty as a direct disciple to help, but I accepted the pills as a gesture. After answering their questions, I looked at the bottles in my hand. My path to power just got a lot faster. While I was training, 2 disciples stood apart from the crowd, radiating a level of arrogance that matched their strength. Bai Lin and Yang Yang were the monsters of the outer court, both 8-star fighters with mastery over the knife and sword. I could hear the other disciples whispering, wondering if I stood a chance against them. Most believed I was outmatched. But I didn't let the gossip get to me. I spent the next 3 days focused entirely on my own growth. Many disciples came to me for advice, leaving behind blood sheep pills as payment. It turned out to be a gold mine. Thanks to those 30 pills in my system, I broke through to become a 9-star warrior in record time. I realized that for an ordinary person, reaching this level would cost nearly 1,000,000 credits. I was incredibly lucky. With the descent into the catacombs approaching, I knew I needed more than just a high realm to survive. I checked my status panel. I had over 700 training points saved up, and it was time to spend them. I decided to focus on mobility and power, pouring my points into Phoenix Dance 9 Heavens and the Bloodthirsty Knife. The cost for the Phoenix Dance was staggering, but it pushed my proficiency straight to the Great Achievement realm. Testing it out, I nearly leaped 3 meters high. My speed was now terrifying, allowing me to cover 100 meters in seconds. Next, I turned my attention to the Bloodthirsty Knife. This technique is feared for the oppressive aura it exerts on enemies. Because it was a lower-ranked skill, it cost far fewer points to reach the Great Achievement level than the dance. I wanted to reach the Zhao Chen realm to unlock the 3 blood shadows, but I was just 40 points short. While waiting for my points to regenerate, I browsed the online store for a weapon, though my budget was tight. Weapons are graded just like skills. Since I only had 3,000 credits, I had to settle for a basic first-grade knife. Once the courier arrived and my training points finally topped up, I pushed the Bloodthirsty Knife to the final stage. I gripped the hilt of my new war knife and swung it, feeling the air howl around the blade. Just as promised, 3 crimson blood shadows manifested in the air. I was finally ready for whatever lay ahead. I walked through the chaotic streets of Heng, where the air was thick with the shouts of desperate salesmen. A frantic old man tried to push maps of the catacombs on me, but I knew better than to trust him. I eventually reached the entrance of the sea-level catacomb, a place where the air felt heavy with sudden danger. A scarred veteran guarded the door. He looked at me and saw a lone warrior from an ordinary family. He gave me a piece of advice I would not forget. The catacombs are cruel, and I should trust no one. I stepped through the door, leaving the human world behind and entering a barren, cold, and desolate wilderness. Inside, other warriors looked at me with open hostility, their eyes cold as they sized up a lonely newcomer. Suddenly, a blur of movement attacked from my blind spot. I did not even see myself draw my blade. A huge wolf head rolled across the grass. I had just slain a Westwind wolf in a single strike. These beasts are F-rank, similar to low-level warriors, but their speed makes them lethal and deadly ambush predators. My system chimed in, granting me 10 training points for the kill. It was a small but welcome gain. I did not have long to celebrate before 3 more wolves emerged from the shadows, surrounding me completely. Using my Feng Wu technique and my bloodthirsty knife, I carved through them with cold and calculated precision. I collected their materials to ease my financial struggles, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my veins. But then, a deafening roar shattered the silence, sending a shiver of primal dread down my spine. Emerging from the brush was a monster far greater than the others, the powerful West Wind Wolf King. Its presence was oppressive, its eyes locked onto me with predatory hunger. Now, the real fight begins. Standing before the West Wind Wolf King, I felt no fear. As a high-level beast, it was far stronger than ordinary wolves. To most warriors, this creature is a death sentence, but to me, it was just a massive source of training points. The Wolf King roared and blurred across the field, its claws slashing at me with terrifying speed and raw power. I blocked the attack with my new saber, but the impact left my arms numb and left marks on the blade. I knew I couldn't just defend. I activated the Phoenix Dance 9 Heavens, moving like lightning to get behind the beast. With one focused, powerful strike, I sliced through the Wolf King. It collapsed instantly, dead before it could even react. The system notified me of my victory. I earned 100 training points, 10 times more than a regular wolf. I looked at my sword with a sigh. It cost me a fortune, and it was already starting to fall apart. Suddenly, two men approached me. One was tall and thin, the other short and fat. They looked far too smug. They demanded the Wolf King's materials, threatening me with their status as martial artists. I could tell they were predators. The short man grew impatient and attacked, his blade erupting in flames from the flame knife technique. He thought I was helpless. I met his aggression with my bloodthirsty knife technique. Now at the great perfection level, I unleashed 9 blood shadows. His blade shattered instantly. Before he could even scream for help, my saber had already pierced through his chest. 200 training points flowed into my system. My stomach churned from my first kill, but I couldn't stop now. The tall man was stunned, but he laughed when he saw my broken sword. He thought I was a toothless tiger. I ignored his mockery and opened my system panel. With over 300 points, I had a plan. I poured every single point into my Rising Dragon Palm, pushing the technique rapidly to the level of little perfection. As the tall man lunged forward to finish me off, I slammed my palm forward, releasing the roar of a dragon. I faced a tall, thin man who thought he had the advantage, but my Rising Dragon Palm was the perfect counter. With the roar of dragons and tigers, I struck him. He was a 1-star martial artist, but my technique reached Zojin. He spat blood and begged for mercy, offering me money and materials to let him live. I didn't hesitate. I couldn't leave any hidden dangers behind. With one expressionless strike, I ended his life and removed the threat forever. To my surprise, killing him granted me 200 training points. I immediately invested them into my Rising Dragon Palm technique. Just like that, I pushed the palm technique to the absolute peak. My power had grown exponentially in just a few hours. I now have 3 techniques at the Dzogchen level. Even as a 9-star warrior, I feel an overwhelming sense of strength. As the adrenaline wore off, mental exhaustion hit me. I searched the bodies and found several precious elixirs and materials. I took a rejuvenation pill, and the fatigue vanished instantly. My body felt refreshed, as if I had just woken up. I also found 2 Changmai pills. These are incredibly rare and expensive, essential for martial artists trying to open their veins. Opening veins is a dangerous process where one mistake can leave you crippled. These pills make that transition much safer. I gathered my loot and returned to the portal. The other warriors shrank away from me, sensing the blood and danger. I made my way to Lingshan Hall to sell my findings. The place was buzzing with traders and warriors buying elixirs. I dropped 3 full backpacks on the counter. The room went silent as people realized the sheer volume of my loot. The clerk began counting. Between the West Wind wolf teeth and tooth pig parts, the value was already in the thousands. Then, the clerk stopped in shock. He had found the teeth of the West Wind Wolf King. The entire hall gasped. The other warriors realized I hadn't just hunted. I had likely stormed the Wolf King's lair and emerged victorious. I didn't care for the fame or the money. I calmly asked the clerk to exchange everything for blood energy pills. I stood there as the crowd whispered in shock. They couldn't believe a mere warrior had killed the West Wind Wolf King. In this world, blood chi pills lose their effectiveness once you become a martial artist, making my current rank a curiosity. After collecting 7 pills from the staff, I left Lingshan Hall. Combined with my loot, I now had 14 pills. I calculated that I only needed 10 more to finally break through to the martial artist realm and accelerate my growth. As the sun rose, I headed back to the Phoenix Dance Martial Arts Hall, where my fellow disciples were gathered. Senior brother Wang Ping was announcing a citywide tournament in 3 days, organized by the Lord of Qingfeng City. The rewards were staggering: 10 bottles of blood chi and Changmai pills, worth nearly $1 million, plus high-rank gear. However, the mood was grim. The rival gyms, Tiger Roar and Ben Dao, both had formidable 9-star warriors entering. Our hall had no one at that level. Even the top disciples, Bai Lin and Yang Shang, were only 8th rank. I couldn't let those rewards slip away. So, I spoke up and told them that I was a 9-star warrior. The silence was deafening. My peers looked at me with total disbelief, wondering how I had progressed so quickly. Despite their skepticism, I signed up immediately. Those pills were exactly what I needed to reach the next stage of power. Wang Ping warned me that real combat is different from sparring and can be lethal, but I felt completely confident. To encourage others, our master offered a bottle of blood chi pills to anyone 7-star or higher who dared to enter. My friends, Lu Long and Wu Tian, tried to warn me about Zhu Si, a crazy 9-star warrior from Tiger Roar. Then came Yang Yang and Bai Lin telling me to be self-aware and stay out of a fight I couldn't win. I just smiled to myself. It was almost funny how they looked down on me, unaware of my true strength. I have just signed up for the upcoming martial arts competition, and it seems my rapid progress has caught everyone's attention. My master, Gao Changyi, was shocked to see that I have already reached the 9-star martial artist rank in just a few days. While he is proud of my talent, he worries that I lack the actual combat experience needed for the real world. He believes that without fighting real opponents, I might struggle when eventually facing the dangerous monsters in the crypt. In our school, Feng Wu, my peers Bailin and Yang Yang have reached 8 stars, but the gap between us and the others is huge. The other schools, like Tiger Roar and Wudao, have monsters of their own, such as the terrifying Zuo Si and the versatile Lin Shu. Zuo Si reached 9 stars in only 2 years and has achieved full consummation in his arts, making him a formidable wall. Then there is Lin Shu, who manages 2 different martial arts at a high level, creating a dangerous and unpredictable fighting style. To help us close the gap, Master Gao decided to give every participant a blood ki pill to boost their strength. He told Wang Ping to remind me not to feel any pressure, as losing is perfectly fine at this stage of my journey. Meanwhile, over at the Tiger Roar Martial Arts Hall, the mood is far more arrogant, with Lin Hu boasting about his students. They view my school as nothing more than a bunch of weaklings, convinced that Zuo Si will easily crush anyone in his path. They believe their dominance in this tournament will finally make Tiger Roar the most feared name in all of Qingfeng City. At the Wudao Martial Arts Hall, however, Lin Shu is more focused, quietly planning his strategy to take the top spot. His master advised him to keep his distance from Zuo Si and use his agility to find an opening for victory. Even the city lord Tian Qingfeng is keeping a close eye on the competition, though for his own hidden reasons. His daughter Lang Shui is complaining that he will not give her high-grade skills, but her father insists on a solid foundation. As the city lord looks over the entry list, he notes that Feng Wu is the weakest, with only 1 9-star fighter. He notices that I have not even mastered a specific martial art yet, leaving me as an underdog in everyone's eyes. They all think I am just a fast climber with no substance, but they have no idea what I am actually capable of. I didn't realize it at the time, but my rapid progress had already caught the attention of the city's highest authority. City Lord Tian Qingfeng was shocked to hear I reached 9-star status in mere days, a feat that usually takes years. He attributed my growth to the spirit induction technique and blood energy pills, though he still viewed me as an outlier. The city lord's conversation revealed a grim truth that the Great Wilderness Dynasty is in decline as the catacombs fade. He explained that the martial arts competition isn't just for sport, but a political statement to attract and nurture geniuses. Meanwhile, back at the Feng Wu Martial Arts Gym, I was counting my rewards with a growing sense of excitement. Thanks to my senior brother, I now had 17 blood energy pills, bringing me closer than ever to the martial master realm. If I could win the championship and secure the 30 additional pills, my breakthrough would be guaranteed. My senior brother, Wang Ping, approached me with a worried look, telling me not to feel any pressure to win. He even suggested I just admit defeat if the opponents were too strong, completely unaware of my true strength. I just smiled and thanked him, keeping my cards close to my chest as I returned home to train. For the next 3 days, I focused entirely on my cultivation, absorbing every single one of those 17 pills. I could feel the power surging through my veins and my heart beating with a strength I had never known before. With only 6 more pills needed for the final bottleneck, I turned my attention to my system panel. I spent my accumulated training points to instantly push my Phoenix Dance 9 Heavens technique to the Dzogchen level. Now, with multiple skills fully mastered, I felt practically invincible among the ranks of the warrior realm. My sights are set on the Zhan Tianzhen next, but for now, the tournament is finally here. I packed my things and headed toward the City Lord's mansion, ready to show everyone what I am truly capable of. Today, the City Lord's mansion is absolutely buzzing. Everyone in Qingfeng City has gathered for the Grand Martial Arts competition. The arena is massive, and the energy is electric. 30 of us are competing in pairs to prove our strength. I could feel the tension in the air. The crowds were already arguing over who would take the championship title. Most people are betting on Zuo Si from the Tiger Roar Academy, or perhaps Lin Shu from the Wudao School. Up on the stands, the three academy masters are sitting together. They pretend to be polite, but they actually despise each other. Lin Hu of Tiger Roar is the loudest, smugly predicting his school's victory while mocking the other two masters. My own school, Feng Wu, is seen as the underdog. Our master stays quiet because our reputation has recently slipped. Down in the arena, the arrogance of the Tiger Roar disciples is unbearable. Zuo Si is the worst of them all. He starts insulting everyone, calling the Feng Wu disciples trash and questioning why we even bothered to show up. My fellow students were furious but hesitant. I decided it was time to step in and put him in his place. I told Zuo Si that while his mouth is impressive, he's actually just a piece of trash. The crowd went silent. Then, everyone burst into laughter. Even Lin Shu from the Wudao school gave me a subtle nod of respect. You see, I have reached the level of a 9-star warrior, though I haven't mastered any specific martial arts techniques yet. Zuo Si was livid. He threatened me, swearing I would regret the day I was born if we faced each other. I just shrugged it off. His arrogance was laughable, and it seemed most of the other contestants agreed with me. Even my senior brother Wang Ping stepped in to defend our honor, mocking Tiger Roar's history of oppressive rule. Wang Ping looked at me with concern. He knows I am strong, but fighting without techniques is a dangerous gamble. Little did I know the city lord himself, Tian Qingfeng, was watching us, intrigued by my boldness and confidence. Suddenly, the city lord stepped out into the open. The entire arena fell into a sudden, heavy silence. His presence was overwhelming, like a mountain crashing down. The competition was finally about to truly begin. I stood among the crowd as City Lord Tian Qingfeng addressed us. He seemed surprisingly humble for such a powerful man. The stakes for this competition were incredibly high. The top 3 winners could claim rare high-level skills and powerful weapons. Established martial artists complained about being excluded, but the City Lord simply laughed, implying that the dynasty had plenty of resources. Then came the drawing of lots to determine the brackets. I looked down at my slip and saw I was number 11. My senior, Wang Ping, warned me to surrender if I faced the Tiger Roar gym. I just pretended to be annoyed. The tournament began with a slaughter. A disciple from Feng Wu Gym faced crows from Tiger Roar and surrendered out of terror. Other matches were more balanced, like the grueling struggle between Bendao and Tiger Roar, which Bendao eventually won through persistence. Then Lin Shu stepped up. He fought his own junior, using the match as a lesson before winning with effortless grace. As the matches continued, the crowd began to grow bored. Most of the fights lacked the intensity we were all craving. Suddenly, my number was called. I was matched against number 20, a brute named Niu Qing from the Tiger Roar gym. Niu Qing and his teammates started mocking me, telling me to call him father if I wanted a decent defeat. I didn't bother arguing. I simply charged my leg and leaped 6 meters high, landing silently and perfectly on the ring. I stepped onto the ring at the Feng Wu Martial Arts Hall, surprising everyone with a single, powerful leap. My brother Wang Pingsheng looked completely confused. He thought I knew no martial arts, but my movement proved otherwise. I had mastered the Phoenix dance for 9 heavens, and judging by their faces, they were absolutely stunned. Even my master, Gao Chengyi, was dazed. I had only been his disciple for a few days after all. The other masters wondered how I achieved such progress so quickly, but I kept my secret to myself. Then there was Niu Qing. He was arrogant, boasting that he would make me regret ever entering the ring. He rushed at me with the tiger roaring fist, a technique that sounded powerful and felt even more oppressive. The crowd gasped as Niu Qing closed the distance, his fists roaring like tigers. Most thought I was doomed. I didn't even move to dodge. I just watched him come, feeling the wind and the heat of his attack. As he struck, I calmly waved my palm. It was a simple move, but it contained all my strength. A crisp snap echoed through the arena. Niu Qing didn't just stop, he was sent flying backward violently. Silence fell over the hall. A 7-star warrior had been defeated in a single unadorned strike. I could see the shock in their eyes. They called it realm suppression, unable to comprehend my power. My fellow disciples from the Feng Wu Hall started cheering, mocking the stunned students from the Tiger Roar Academy. Master Gao smiled, realizing my talent was far beyond his expectations. He now saw me as a top contender. I politely left the ring, ignoring the sudden flood of admiration and questions about my cultivation methods. But there was no time to relax. The announcer called out the next match, number 1 versus number 15. I looked up to see a towering figure stepping forward. This was senior brother Yu, a formidable 8-star warrior. The Tiger Roar disciples were screaming for him to crush me, but I only felt a spark of excitement. I stepped into the ring, feeling the eyes of the crowd on me. My senior brother, Wang Ping, looked genuinely worried. To make a proper entrance, I used the Phoenix dance for 9 heavens. I could hear the women in the audience cheering. I didn't want to waste any time. I looked at my opponent, Yu Feng, and told him to just get started already. The crowd erupted in laughter. They thought I was insane, knowing Yu Feng was a powerful 8-star martial artist. Yu Feng wasn't amused. He had mastered the tiger roaring fist to the level of small perfection, and he was furious. Like a cannonball, Yu Feng lunged at me. His fist carried the faint roar of a tiger aiming straight for my chest. I waited until the last second. Then, I unleashed my full power with the rising dragon palm, reaching great perfection. A mighty dragon materialized in my palm, accompanied by a deafening chant. The force sent Yu Feng flying backward instantly. In a single blow, the fight was over. Yu Feng lay unconscious, and the entire stadium fell into a stunned silence. The masters were baffled. I had reached a level of cultivation in days that usually took years of hard work. I walked off the ring calmly. I knew I was the dark horse of this competition, and I intended to win. But the atmosphere shifted when my fellow student Yang Yang stepped up to fight a man named Zuo Si. Despite Yang Yang's bravery and his bloodthirsty knife, Zuo Si was on another level. He crushed him with one palm. Seeing Yang Yang spit blood and collapse made my blood boil. We may have clashed, but he is still my brother. Zuo Si looked at me with cold eyes, declaring that he was waiting for me. The tension in the air grew. More matches passed, including Bai Lin's defeat by Lin Shu. Soon, only 8 of us remained in the competition. Then came the draw for the rematch. A man named Crow stepped forward with a sinister smile on his face. He called out my name, questioning my strength. The crowd went silent as our fated clash finally arrived. The crowd was buzzing with excitement. Everyone was debating whether I could actually take down Zuo Si in the ring. They saw us both as 9-star fighters, but most believed Zuo Si's experience and his Zuzochin fist would win. Even my master, Hall Master Gao Chengyi, seemed uncertain. He didn't realize how far I had actually pushed my training. I looked at my brothers and told them to trust me. I promised they would see Zuo Si tremble in my presence. When I stepped into the ring, I didn't go for my usual dragon palm. Instead, I pulled out a wooden knife. The crowd was confused. They wondered why I was switching techniques, and Zuo Si thought I was merely mocking him. I just smiled. He thought the dragon palm was my only trick, but he had never heard of my bloodthirsty knife. Zuo Si lunged at me with blinding speed, but to me, his movements were predictable. I slashed down fiercely. In an instant, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt like a sea of blood, and 3 blood shadows flickered beside me. That was the power of the Zogshen realm. My master stood up in shock, realizing I had mastered 2 peak techniques. Zuo Si could not even react. The force of my strike hit him like a tidal wave, shattering his confidence. I did not stop there. I wanted him to understand the gap between us, so I kept the pressure on. I started teasing him, asking if he still wanted to act like a barking dog now that he was trapped. He tried to resist, but every punch he threw was met with the biting edge of my wooden blade. He went from a confident warrior to a frightened animal, begging me to stop as he scrambled away in pain. The audience was speechless. This was no longer a fight, it was a complete one-sided demolition of Zuo Si's pride. I could see Lin Hu's face turning pale. He had bet everything on Zuo Si, and now he was watching him fail. My master was likely laughing inside. He finally saw that my talent was far beyond anyone's expectations. Zuo Si learned a hard lesson today. When you underestimate someone, you might just end up begging for mercy. As I stood over him, I knew this was only the beginning of my journey to the pinnacle of martial arts. The referee's voice boomed across the arena, declaring me the winner of the contest. My fellow disciples from the Fengwu Martial Arts Hall erupted in cheers, their excitement filling the air. As I stepped off the ring, my senior brother Wang Ping patted my shoulder with a look of pure amazement. He whispered that my Phoenix dance for 9 heavens had already reached the level of full perfection. I was slightly taken aback. I wondered how he could possibly tell or if he had been spying on my training. But there was still one obstacle left, Lin Shu. He was the final hurdle between me and the #1 spot. Word around the hall was that Lin Shu had mastered basic swordsmanship and footwork, making him a formidable opponent. Despite the warnings, I told my brothers not to worry. To me, this victory was just a formality. I could feel the glares from the Tiger Roar martial arts gym. They clearly hated how easily I was dominating. High above in the stands, the city lord and other masters were debating our chances, weighing my power against Lin Shu. One master, Lin Hu, was so convinced I hadn't reached perfection that he bet he would eat his own chair if I had. The knockout rounds flew by quickly. My opponents surrendered the moment I stepped up, knowing the gap in our strength. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The final match, me versus Lin Shu. As the referee signaled the start, I stayed perfectly still, just staring at Lin Shu. The crowd grew impatient. The referee even warned me that I would lose by default if I did not enter the ring immediately. I simply smiled. In a flash of movement that left a gust of wind in my wake, I landed softly before him. Lin Shu looked at me, and in that single moment, the expression on his face shifted from anger to shock. Without exchanging a single blow, Lin Shu turned around and conceded. He admitted my superiority and walked away. The audience was stunned. They could not understand how the biggest fight of the day ended before it even began. Only a few truly understood. My Phoenix dance for 9 heavens had reached the pinnacle, and the victory was absolute. The crowd was in total shock. They couldn't believe I had reached the great perfection of the Phoenix dance 9 heavens in days. Their faces were priceless as they processed the fact that I was not just a genius, but a 9-star martial artist. I remember telling them that this contest was just a formality. At first they thought I was bragging, but now they knew. Bailan looked at me with pure embarrassment. He had looked down on me before, thinking my rank meant nothing without skill. Now, seeing 3 perfected martial arts, he realized he was the one who had been mistaken about my true potential. Wang Ping smiled at me, likely wondering if my Zhantian sword had also reached the level of great perfection. Even my master, Gao Chengyi, was lost in thought. He couldn't believe the Fengwu Martial Arts Hall had actually become #1. Wu Dao accepted his defeat with grace, admitting that he had finally seen what a real genius looked like in person. Meanwhile, Lin Hu had to swallow his pride after losing a bet, though my master stopped him from doing anything too extreme. City Lord Tian Qingfeng officially declared me the champion. I could feel the jealousy of the audience as I stood beside him. After the ceremony, the City Lord brought me into the hall. My friend Pingqi started explaining the scale of Lufeng City. He told me that Lufeng City was far more prosperous, filled with geniuses who had practiced since childhood using expensive elixirs. Pingqi wanted me to realize the gap between me and the true elites, but I wasn't bothered. I have my system. I asked about the rewards, and the City Lord led me to a table filled with pills and exercise manuals. That's when I saw it, a storage ring, a rare treasure forged from materials found only in the dangerous catacombs. The City Lord offered it to me, but it came with a price. I had to join the Wangwei Jun army. A storage ring is worth millions and would make my future excursions into the burrows so much easier and more efficient. Despite the temptation, I refused. My master and brothers at Fengwu Martial Arts were too kind for me to abandon them. The City Lord tried one last time, pointing to a list of powerful exercises that he would give me if I joined. I hesitated for a moment looking at those manuals, but my loyalty remained firm. I wouldn't trade my home for power. City Master Tian Qingfeng was still trying to lure me into joining the Wangwei Jun with promises of immense power. He told me that the current exercises were only low-level 3rd rank, but he could provide 4th grade ones if I joined. Even his companion Ping Qi tried to convince me, arguing that it is only natural to seek higher ground. I felt a bit helpless. I had already refused, but they simply wouldn't let the matter drop. Not wanting to offend the city master, I decided to explain my situation more tactfully to him. I told him that the martial arts hall took me in after my parents died and treated me with kindness. I explained that I could never betray the master who supported me during the most difficult time of my life. The city master sighed, seemingly moved by my loyalty. He finally stopped pressing me to join his ranks. With that settled, I finally turned my attention to the reward manuals laid out before me on the table. The Surging Mind method caught my eye, a 3rd grade technique that allows for the rapid restoration of true energy. Then there was the Body Forging technique, which promised to make my physical form as hard as iron. I also saw the Shaping Snake Fist and the Qingfeng Kick, both vicious and fast 3rd grade combat skills. It was fascinating to learn that mastering these 3rd grade techniques could lead to the comprehension of powerful secret skills. I already had a decent sword technique, so I focused on what I needed most for long-term survival. I chose the Body Forging technique. It requires more resources and time, but I have my system to help. Increasing my physical durability is essential if I want to survive the dangers of the burrow in the future. The city master questioned my choice, but he nodded once he saw I had a clear plan for my growth. Next, I requested a weapon. He presented a sword over a meter long that emitted a terrifying cold light. It was significantly heavier than my old 1st grade saber, and I felt an immediate satisfaction holding its weight. I thanked him and left the mansion, though he reminded me that the door to the Wangwei Jun remained open. As I walked away, I could tell the city master saw potential in me that his subordinates missed. When I returned to the Fengwu Martial Arts Hall, I was greeted by an incredibly lively and celebratory atmosphere. There was a massive banner at the entrance announcing my victory as the champion of the martial arts tournament. My fellow disciples were in complete shock, unable to believe how quickly I had progressed in my cultivation. My senior sister, Gao Fengshui, was especially skeptical about me mastering so many high-level techniques in such a short time. A heavy silence fell over the room as they wondered if I had secretly joined the city master's mansion. But as soon as I stepped through the door, the tension broke, and the hall erupted in joyful laughter. Gao Fengshui gave me a playful yet painful pat on the chest, reminding me that she is a 4-star martial artist. Despite the pain, I felt at home. I now had the power and the loyalty to protect this place. I finally made it back to the gym, where I found Gao Fengshui being her usual spoiled self. My second senior brother teased me, wondering if the city lord had finally lured me away to his mansion. I told him the truth. The city lord did want me, but I turned him down without hesitation. Master Gao and this gym are like a second home to me, and I could not just abandon them. I could tell Master was moved by my loyalty, though he tried to hide it behind his usual face. He called me over privately, and I wondered what kind of reward he had prepared for my dedication. Master handed me an old wooden box, noting that I was likely on the verge of becoming a martial artist. Inside were 10 bottles of Chongmai pills and a weathered book containing a second-grade high-level mental method. The innate skills were a bit lower in grade than the city lord's offer, but they suited me better. Then I saw the real prize lying beneath, the continuous star arrow technique, a 3rd-grade high-level skill. This technique allows for perfect target locking and can shoot 3 arrows at once with 10-fold power. I was stunned. This was nearly equivalent to a 4th-grade exercise and could allow me to challenge stronger foes. When I told Master I could not accept such a treasure, he insisted it was his private collection. He admitted he could no longer improve his own mastery of it, so it was better in my hands. Master explained that weapon skills, especially archery, become exponentially harder to master as you climb the ranks. He described 4th and 5th rank powerhouses who could fly and kill enemies using nothing but their emitted chi. Hearing this, my heart raced. The world of martial arts was far vaster than I had ever imagined. I felt a surge of gratitude. Master promised to provide everything he possibly could to support my growth. He warned me not to rush my breakthroughs, as a shaky foundation could lead to madness or permanent injuries. We discussed the path ahead. After becoming a 9-star martial artist, one must open the energy sea in the Dantian. That step is incredibly dangerous and requires massive amounts of elixir to avoid a fatal failure. Only after establishing that sea of energy do you truly become a general, focusing then on expanding its capacity. When I asked about his own level, Master blushed and admitted he was currently a 7-star martial artist. To prepare me for the future, he planned to have my senior brother take me to the crypt. I just nodded and agreed, keeping the secret that I had already ventured into those dangerous depths. Night fell, and I took a moment to check my progress. My system panel showed I was a 9-star warrior. With enough pills in hand, I knew it was finally time to make the leap to the realm of a martial artist. I swallowed a blood chi pill, and for 2 days my body felt like it was erupting from the inside. The pain was unbearable and my veins were popping, but I gritted my teeth, refusing to give in. Suddenly, a surge of true energy flowed through my blood, circulating through every single corner of my being. I had done it. I was now a 1-star martial artist and my physical strength had more than tripled. The best part was the system update. My training point generation doubled to 20 points every single hour. I began reviewing the exercises given to me by the city lord and my master, though they seemed complex. From the star arrow technique to body forging, the costs for these high-level skills were staggering, requiring thousands of points. I decided to prioritize the Burning Sun Dang Gong, as it would allow me to increase my realm even faster. To afford the upgrade, I used a system feature to forget my spirit induction technique, refunding several hundred points. After spending over 1,000 points, I reached the Zhouchen level of Burning Sun Dang Gong in an instant. While I could push further, I remembered my master's advice about strengthening my foundation before rushing my cultivation. I took a Chongmai pill, feeling a domineering energy rush through me, which I quickly softened using my new technique. Opening the 8 meridians is the key for any martial artist, starting with the simpler yin and yang paths. The later stages are far more dangerous, requiring massive energy and risking total madness if you fail. I decided to take it step by step, starting with the Yinting meridian to reach the 2-star level. I concentrated and pushed a massive surge of Zhen Qi toward the first acupuncture point of the meridian. The breakthrough was smooth. As the point opened, a wave of refreshment washed over me, and my energy grew. My preparations were perfect. With the blessing of the Burning Sun pill, I felt the energy surge and broke through 8 acupoints effortlessly. My Zhen expanded to twice its original size, though my supply of Changmai pills was already starting to dwindle. With only 1 point left and plenty of Qi, I pushed through the 9th point in just 3 seconds. The system notified me that I was now a 2-star martial artist. I could feel the new power humming within me. I noticed my training points per hour had increased slightly, though it was not as much as I had hoped. Still, I was not deterred. I turned my focus toward the meridians, ready to push my limits even further. Pressed, Heng Foals in Neversation, breaking through the first meridian in less than a day would shock anyone. Most practitioners take months to achieve this. I credited my success to the Burning Sun alchemy. Now, it was time to attack the second meridian, the Yangting point. I guided my true energy through 13 acupoints, but I noticed a worrying trend. The energy cost was rising. The first point of this meridian cost more than the last. I decided to ignore the anomaly and keep pushing. I consumed 4 Changmai pills in total to clear the 13 points. The effort was taxing but absolutely necessary. Another notification flashed. I had reached the rank of a 3-star martial artist. I could not stop smiling. My strength had improved immensely. I could feel that my true energy was now 10 times greater than before. With the Burning Sun Dangong running in my body, my Qi restored itself almost instantly. I felt nearly invincible. Next were the Yinfeng and Yangfeng meridians. These were tougher, requiring 25 acupuncture points combined. As I started the Yin-Wen meridian, the cost jumped to 40% of a pill per point. I leaned on my stock of 34 pills, steadily breaking through until the Yin-Wen meridian was finally open. I had spent 5 more pills and ascended to a 4-star martial artist. The process was becoming routine. Then came the Yangfeng meridian. 16 points stood in my way, but the energy cost was now staggering. Each point consumed half of a pill energy. I had to pause every 10 seconds to let my Qi recover. I paced myself carefully, moving point by point until I reached the final 16th acupoint. Suddenly, the energy drain spiked. I felt my Zen Qi dissipating and panicked, quickly swallowing another Changmai pill. I managed to stabilize the flow and force the breakthrough. I wiped the sweat from my brow, still shaking. The system confirmed it. I was now a 5-star martial artist. I had successfully pushed through the danger. My internal energy was now almost as strong as a full pill. With 22 pills left, I wondered, could I handle the 5th meridian? The hunger for power was driving me to keep going. I felt I was in a perfect state, so I decided to push straight for the 5th meridian. The first acupuncture point only cost me 1 Changmai pill, but I soon realized things weren't that simple. As I progressed, the cost increased. By the second point, the consumption had already jumped significantly. I started swallowing 2 pills at once to keep up, as my body could handle the surge of energy. By the 9th point, the cost was startling. I felt a bit distressed, but I refused to give up halfway. I pushed through until the 13th point, but then my supply of Changmai pills finally ran dry. Still, I had broken through 4 full meridians in less than half a day, a feat that usually takes years. I knew I needed more resources to keep growing, which meant I had to return to the crypt. Before leaving, I decided to upgrade my other techniques to the Dzogchen level of mastery. When I walked into the outer courtyard, the disciples greeted me with deep respect and admiration. They were whispering about my tournament victory and how I had become a living legend in the martial arts hall. A disciple named Yang approached me shyly, asking if I could teach him the bloodthirsty sword technique. He even offered me a bottle of Changmai pills as payment, but I couldn't take that from a fellow brother. I gave him a few pointers, and he understood immediately. Soon, a dozen other disciples were crowding around me. One student asked about the heaven-slashing sword, and I realized it was time to perfect that skill too. With a few system prompts and my accumulated training points, I raised the heaven-slashing sword to Dzogchen. I checked my status. I was now a 5-star martial artist with all my main skills fully mastered. Wang Ping, a 7-star martial artist, watched me and realized he could no longer gauge my depth. He was depressed by how quickly I was evolving, wondering how a warrior could leap realms in a single day. Just then, a familiar voice boomed from outside, calling me out for a challenge. They didn't want a sword fight, but a raw, fist-to-flesh brawl to see who was truly stronger. I was calmly instructing my disciples in the outer courtyard of the Fengwu Martial Arts Hall when a loud voice shattered the peace. It was Zuo Si. He was standing at the gate, screaming and demanding that I come out and face him again. He was still bitter about our last contest, claiming it was unfair because I used a sword while he did not. My fellow disciples looked at him with pure disdain, wondering why this idiot was still trying to pick a fight with me. I tried to ignore him, but he would not stop. He started calling me a coward, asking if I was hiding. Eventually, I stepped outside. I did not want to fight. I just wanted this annoying fly to leave us alone and go. Zuo Si challenged me to a boxing match, claiming that if I were a real man, I would fight with just my fists. I was speechless. He had already been beaten once, yet here he was, begging for another round of pain. I waved him away, but he had a trick up his sleeve to get my attention. He mentioned a rare treasure. He claimed he found an immortal vein fruit in the catacombs and offered it to me if I agreed to compete. I was not sure what that was, so I asked Yang. He told me it was a high-level spiritual fruit. Apparently, one fruit is worth more than 20 Chiang Mai pills, which are used specifically to open up the meridians. I really needed those pills to break through my 5th meridian, so I decided to play along with his little game. I agreed to the fight, though I could not help but smile. He was basically delivering the materials I needed to me. Strangely, Zuo Si insisted that I go all out. He did not want me to hold back or show any mercy. As we faced each other, a crowd gathered. Even my senior brothers were watching, wondering if I could handle the pressure. Some were worried, thinking we were in the same realm and both had mastered our arts to the highest level. Zuo Si roared like a demon and charged at me with everything he had, his fighting spirit surging violently. I did not move an inch. I just waited for the right moment, then slowly stretched out my hand. With a single punch, Zuo Si flew backward and hit the ground, instantly losing consciousness. The entire courtyard went silent. I could see the disbelief written all over my second senior brother's face as he stared at me in total shock. He couldn't believe his eyes, realizing that in just a few short days, I had already become a martial artist. Wang Ping echoed his surprise, and the other disciples around us began to whisper in confusion and utter amazement. They were stunned by my speed. How could I break through so quickly when they had struggled for so long? Wang Ping patted my shoulder, genuinely happy for me, though I could tell he felt a bit miserable inside. Then he asked the question everyone was thinking. Had I really already reached the level of a 5-star martial artist? I smiled and confirmed it, watching as Gaofeng Shui looked at me as if she were trapped in a vivid dream. She had practiced for years to reach her current realm, yet here I was, matching her after only a few days. Even my 4th senior brother looked completely lost. He had worked for years just to become a 3-star martial artist. Wang Ping asked about the Burning Sun alchemy that Master had passed down to me, his curiosity finally winning out. I told them the truth. My mastery of the Scorching Sun pill was now complete, having reached the stage of perfection. The group was speechless. They had known I was talented, but this level of progress was simply beyond their vocabulary. Feng Ping tried to be supportive, even offering me a pulse impulse pill, despite how expensive they are for him. The others were floored. A single pill costs 100,000, and they realized I was operating on a different level. Just as they were crowding around me for pointers, a familiar voice cut through the noise. Our master had arrived. Gao Chengyi ignored the others entirely. He looked at me with a piercing gaze and told me to follow him. Once we were alone, Master asked if I was truly a 5-star martial artist. I respectfully confirmed the news. He seemed intensely curious about my progress, asking if I had encountered any difficulties while attacking my meridians. When I told him everything had gone smoothly, he asked me to explain my process for practicing the Burning Sun alchemy. I was surprised, but he quickly claimed he just wanted to ensure my cultivation process matched his own exactly. He insisted that as my teacher, he needed to make sure I wasn't making any critical mistakes in my training. Before I could answer, Master suddenly realized my siblings were eavesdropping outside the door and quickly chased them away. With the room finally quiet, I began to describe my unique understanding and the specific way I had cultivated. As I spoke, I noticed Master's face turning red. The atmosphere in the room became strangely subtle and awkward. He took a sip of tea to compose himself, admitting that my understanding of the alchemy was incredibly unique. Though he praised me and told me not to relax, he quickly asked me to keep our conversation a total secret. I realized he wanted to save face after discovering that his student had found a more efficient path than him. As I left the room, I couldn't help but wonder if my master had just been subtly threatened by my progress. But I didn't have much time to dwell on it. I had something much more important to attend to. I turned and hurried toward the martial arts hall, my mind focused on one thing, my fairy vein fruit.